There we go. That's how you kill torture chambers. Welcome Reckless Wanderers, it's Robert again. This is part 2 of the build diary of the Frostburn Raider that I'm playing in the Softcore Piranhas League. I haven't been playing much during the last week since I was sick, but I made it to level 85 and I wanted to talk to you through the progression that I made and also go into a little bit more detail about the build itself, specifically the itemization and the passive tree. We'll also talk a little bit about skill gems. I wanted to do this video, this is going to be a little bit longer one, because before I make the very short build guide and the forum thread update for the build, I wanted to get your feedback and see what can be improved. Since you guys always have great ideas and great suggestions, and in the past whenever I released a build, like the best improvements came from the YouTube comments. So I'm counting on you. Interesting. Let's get straight into it. So this build utilizes Ice Shot with a single projectile, getting as much AoE as we can, and then using the overkill damage and Herald of Ash to proliferate the burn onto tougher targets to burn them down immediately. And the most important item and the most important passive for that is the Chinsel Assassin Bow. It's because it grants 100% more bow damage at close range, and point blank grants 50% more damage at close range. This means if we shoot a mob into the face, then this is multiplied by 1.5, and then thanks to the bow again by 2, which leads up with triple the tooltip damage that we have. So basically whenever we stand in front of a trash mob, our cone that's hitting half of the screen is dealing 210,000 DPS, which is pretty nice. So this is the cornerstone of the build. The next item that I'm using in conjunction with the Raider subclass and getting as much frenzy charges as I can is Darkrai Vectors. They are very cheap to get, give us a ton of mitigation since we're going aggro and phase aggro. We have a 58% dodge and we get a lot of movement speed and an additional frenzy charge from these boots. Then the next item that I'm using is Drill Neck, because I wanted to get more damage based on my pierce. So this time I focused more on pierce, although it's less effective because we're using point blank. The further the projectile travels, the less damage it deals, but we're using the pierce not to create overlapping explosions at the far end of the screen. We're trying to increase our overall initial projectile damage with that, getting 100% pierce using the pierce gem and the passive tree. And of course, also if like two trash mobs stand in front of each other, if projectiles pierce through, then we have overlapping explosions right behind the first two trash mobs. And if there's a boss standing behind those, the boss usually dies. The next item that is not mandatory but helps a great deal is Carcass Jack. It's, I would say, the most expensive item in this set. The benefit of this is that it increases the radius of the Ice Shot cone a lot. 20% doesn't seem like much, but it's actually huge. Before I was using Carcass Jack, it took me a lot more shots to kill a pack of monsters, like 2 or 3. Now with the increased area, because this also applies to a Herald of Ash, I'm usually just one-shotting an entire pack. And the increased area damage helps as well. The final unique item that I'm utilizing now is Alpha's Howl, and that is because I'm using the Mantra of Flames Jewel, which gives us base fire damage per buff that we have, and I wanted to get as many buffs as possible. Now, before I was using Alpha's Howl, I was just using Hatred and Herald of Ash and a level 1 Clarity, and that was fine, but I thought if I could squeeze in Herald of Ice, I can substitute Clarity with Herald of Ice and I have even more damage thanks to Herald of Ice, and I also get Reflect safety to a certain degree. The problem that this build has with Reflect, if you shoot into a Reflect rare at close range, you're gonna kill yourself. If you hit a Reflect rare with the Ice Shot cone, you're also gonna kill yourself. But if you like hit a pack of monsters and the Reflect mob enters the zone, then it's very, very likely that the Reflect mob gets killed by either the Herald of Ash overkill damage, or the burn that spreads from there, or it's getting killed by the Herald of Ice explosions, which can't be reflected. So this is actually great. It has another benefit: we cannot be frozen, which makes our flask management a bit easier. And obviously the +2 level of socketed aura gems makes things nicer there as well. So in comparison to my previous build, those are a lot more unique items, which makes gearing of the other gear slots a lot harder. The gloves I'm using have simply life, dual res, and Phys damage. The Phys damage roll is not great, can be a lot better. And then my jewelry focuses on life and resist. On the belt I get a little bit more elemental damage, which is great. And then the rings should ideally be diamond rings to get more crit, but I took what I had to get a little bit of life and resistances. My worst slot right now is the amulet, which is an agate. I needed it for the stats basically. If I take it off, then I can't wear my strength and intelligence gems. What you want on this is crit chance, crit multi, life, resists, and flat Phys, but they are very, very expensive. Like the cheapest one I saw yesterday was 1.5 exalts. In terms of flask, I found out, thanks to the leech that we have, using Vitality Void without Vaal Pact, even you can usually leech full with just one single ice shot within 1 second, which seems long. 1 second is enough for mobs to kill you, but still, that brought me to the conclusion that I'm just running one panic pot, which is currently still rolled with freeze removal. I should change that actually, since I'm having an alpha sal. And it's a bubbling that recovers a bit more life. And the other pots are utility. So I'm having a Surgeon's Quicksilver of Warding to get rid of curses, which is only up occasionally, and usually in the beginning of maps when I'm not having frenzy charges and when I'm pretty slow. And of course when I get cursed. The other 3 flasks I try to keep up all the time. It's a diamond with bleed removal to improve my crit rating, since our crit chance is actually not that great. Without power charges we're sitting at 26%. For a crit build that is abysmal. With power charges, I don't know, it maybe goes up to 35 or 40. So that's also why I need to upgrade to diamond rings and a better amulet, and which is why I'm using a diamond flask. Then the basalt flask is great, absolutely great, whenever you encounter physical spellcasters, or whenever the odds are that you have porcupines and your 60% attack dodge doesn't save you, then you have that to mitigate some physical damage. And then another damage and leech boost is of course Ethereal's Promise. Since we also have a pretty low chaos resist, this is great as well in maps like Jungle Valley. If you have a bigger budget, of course you want to trade the Ethereal's Promise for a Taste of Fate, or maybe even the Diamond Flask with a Taste of Fate if you have enough crit. Okay, finally I want to talk about the passive tree. This is a very offensive tree. I started Ranger, of course, for the Raider subclass. I didn't exit the evasion and life route like I usually do. I went out of the damage route. In retrospective, I would actually advise to go the evasion and life route, since you don't need that much damage. The damage is so absurd. I mean, I'm one-shotting tier 9 bosses. It's just crazy. Anyway, we're getting Aspect of Eagle because it has movement speed and life, then going through Heart of Oak. And the first, what we do is going to Duelist. Now, the problem is, since we need point blank, we have to take the long route to Duelist, and this makes leveling a bit painful. Of course, you don't pick up point blank at the beginning. What you try to get as fast as possible is the Leech Cluster. I tried running around with just Life and Mana Leech and Vitality Void, but it wasn't enough, especially now that I just have 53 mana left. Because I'm running Hatred, Herald of Ice and Herald of Ash, I need Spirit Void as well. But with this it's fine. Then you go over and grab Golem's Blood and go through Fury Bolts into Art of Gladiator, Bravery to pick up the life there. You don't need the Jewel Socket just yet, you can pick it up later. Same thing for the Thick Skin, this is something to save up for Merciless. After you have the Duelist done, you basically go up, get Herbalism, go further up, through Blood Drinker, Nullification, Fangs of the Viper, Will of Blades, Coordination, Blood Siphon, Trickery, Assassination, Cold-Hearted Calculation, up to Written in Blood. Written in Blood is also debatable. ES doesn't give you anything, but I needed Strength and Intelligence, and this gives us 20 Intelligence and 10 Strength. Also with a 8% maximum life notable, which is pretty nice. You could trade it instead for, I guess, Revenge of the Hunted or even Profane Chemistry, but I'm not sure if that's even better. Another reason why I went up here is the Growth and Decay cluster. You might be wondering why I'm taking that. This is damage over time and life regen. Damage over time is great for our Herald of Ash. It works wonders. You really notice it once you pick the notable up, how much more damage you deal. Before I had an Alpha Howl, I was actually augmenting my Herald of Ash with increased burning damage, and it was crazy good. Another reason why I picked this up is because of the life regen. We have what is this? This is 2% life regen over here, and Golem's Blood is another 1.6%. And if we turn on Blood Rage, you actually notice that the life doesn't go down. And this is very, very convenient. Of course, proficient players will probably say, screw it, I don't care if the life goes down, I can leech it back immediately in maps. But I'm not the best player, so I like it that the life doesn't go down when Blood Rage is up. Once you get all the life stuff, you can start getting the damage. Obviously, if you have a drill neck, then the piercing nodes are really great. Then you want to get all the frenzy charges, the one here, Frenetic, then Fervor and Savagery. You want to get King of the Hill and Lethality. And then you want to get a bit more defense, which is Acrobatic and Phase Acrobatics. The Jewel Socket, Mantra of Flames, is useful to get once you get all your buffs up. For buffs, again, we're using the Hatred, Herald of Ice, Herald of Ash. We have our Ice Golem, which I'm running on cost when damage taken, together with Molten Shell, and we're running Blood Rage. On top of that, since we are Raider and are using the Rapid Assault notable, we're getting Onslaught. So tons and tons of buffs to work with. Finally, skills. Skills I'm using for cursing. I'm still using a Lightning Arrow, which I have in my Alpha Howl. I need to switch that with the gloves, but I'm saving up chromes. Lightning Arrow with GMP, Curse on Hit, and Assassin's Mark. If you have a lot of small mobs that are hard to hit with Ice Shot, this is great for clearing the trash, basically. It sounds ridiculous that you're clearing trash with Lightning Arrow, with your Curse, but it actually works pretty great. Then Herald of Ash, Herald of Ice, Hatred, Blink Arrow, Summon Ice Golem, Molten Shell, Blood Rage, cast when damage taken. Blood Rage is over leveled, so I cast it manually because I want to have maximum effectiveness on that, but you could also leave it lower if you don't want to bother with activating it manually. And then we come to the damage dealers. Our main skill, Ice Shot, I'm currently linked it with weapon elemental damage, increased area of effect, slower projectiles, pierce, and physical projectile attack damage. Increased area of effect, again, is debatable. For me, it feels like a clear speed boost, but of course, if you have, for example, 2 red sockets, you could also use added fire. It's also very nice, but you might have to hit mobs more often because of the area loss. And then for single target and for boss kills, I was using in my previous build a Vaal Burning Arrow trap, and I switched it now out with a non-trap version of this. I'm using Vaal Burning Arrow, physical to lightning, slower projectiles, greater multiple projectiles, and pierce. Physical to lightning, again, is debatable. I'd rather have weapon elemental damage here. It would probably provide more damage. But again, chromes. I'm currently saving up chromes, and then I have to recolor 3 items, and all 3 of them I need sort of off colors, so I just don't want to do it before I have like 200, 300 chromes pre-collected. A viewer asked me recently on YouTube why I'm not using physical projectile attack damage over pierce, because fun fact is, if you target a mob with this, Vaal Burning Arrow is ground targeted, so it will never pierce. You're always trying to shotgun. But I calculated it. I went over the passive tree and checked out how many damage increases I got. And from the passives, I got 20% increased elemental damage, 56 Phys, 137 projectile damage, and 63 Phys from both. This nets us with 275% increased damage, attack damage. If I would use the physical projectile attack damage gem, which offers 48% more damage, this is this times 1.48, we're ending up with 407% total attack damage. Pierce, on the other hand, gives us 50% chance to pierce. Since I'm using a drill neck, this is another 50% increased damage. So this is 275 plus 50, and then, whoops, times 1.28 is 416% damage. So it's slightly more. That's the reasoning for me to use Pierce there. Also, since I'm not using a trap, it's actually nice if you have a blue pack that's very tanky. It doesn't die on your first Ice Shot, and I don't know, you can just throw in Vaal Burning Arrow, aim at the edge of the screen. It's like the most satisfying thing ever to see the entire screen going off in explosions. So that's my current update. I'm clearing tier 9 and tier 10 maps just fine with this build. So far it's unstoppable. I haven't died much after I switched to this spec. So I died a couple of times to Graveyard Merveil, like 3 or 4 times, because I was running around with 30% cold resistance. It was pretty dumb. But once I got my resistance sorted out, I just died 3 times in maps. Once because I thought it was a good idea to shotgun Reflect Rare, and I didn't dodge it. The second time I died to Shared Boon Drop Bears in the beginning of a map. I had no frenzy charges up, hence just 40% dodge, and they stun locked me to death. And the third death was I was handed over my own medicine. There's actually a Perandus mob that uses GMP Ice Shot, and I was running a canyon standing next to a wall, and he shotgunned me with all the Ice Shot. Or maybe it was Lightning Arrow, I don't know. But I died instantly. Anyway, this character, great fun. I want to continue level it to 90 before I release the final build video. This will take me another probably 2 weeks until I get there, because I have limited playtime. Let me know in the description, what do you think about the main links I'm using for Ice Shot and Vaal Burning Arrow? What would you improve? Also, do you have any suggestions for further jewels? If I should get another jewel socket, what could I put in there apart from the generic life and bow damage? Would you do anything different in the passive tree, or even in the ascendancy progression? Let me know in the comments below. My name is Robert, and I hope to see you in game.